Welcome to the Teachers and Leaders breakout session. I'm Kelly Zunkowitz, the head of Educator Innovation at Impact Florida. I've really been looking forward to this session for a bunch of reasons. One, because we're going to get to chat with Dan Weisberg, CEO of TNTP, but also because I really want to hear from you. I want to hear from the teachers and leaders in the audience and hear how your year is going, what you're experiencing in the day-to-day. And being able to listen to your stories is the best part of my job here at Impact Florida. That is truly what I love most, and I'm so happy to be able to do it. I started my career in Hillsborough County, Florida, right out of college. I came down from Ohio at the age of 22, and I started working at an F school, and I only visited that school once. And I'm sharing this because the reason I came down, the reason I chose to move to Florida was because of my principal. And I know there's principals in the audiences. And within a minute of speaking with him, I knew he was the principal I wanted to work for, and that was the school that I wanted to work at. He had such a great, big vision for that school and the students, high expectations, and everyone that walked in the door knew what it was because he shared it with everyone. It didn't matter if you were dropping off something and you worked at FedEx or if you were a parent of one of the students. Now, while I worked at Leonard High School, I taught classes that range from algebra all the way up to AP calculus, so I got to see it all. I was also an instructional coach. And with the help of my extremely just amazing, fabulous students, I can't use enough words to describe them, we were able to increase the AP pass rate from 11% to 80% in just 5 years. And we also increased the number of female students in calculus from just 2 students to 66% of the class. And that is something that I am so incredibly proud of. And during my time at Leonard High School, I also received 2 National Teaching Awards, TNTP's Fishman Prize for Superlative Classroom Practice, and the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. Now at Impact Florida, we have a small team, but we have big goals and big visions, just like my principal did. And I share that because just as he couldn't put the practice in place alone, we can't do that either. And we really need to empower our education leaders to recognize, support, and scale great teaching practices so that all children are able to realize success in life. And that's what Impact Florida is really here to do. We need teachers, principals, district leaders, just like you, to be part of this work. And we believe in the 5 conditions that support great teaching and the work of our first 3 cadres. The COVID recovery cadre is one that I manage currently with 4 Florida districts. And it's really exciting because teachers and administrators are part of this work for the first time. And that's huge. It's so important for us to include teachers, administrators, school-based staff in the decisions and in the work that we're doing here at Impact Florida. And now I'd like to welcome Dan Weisberg, CEO of TNTP, to share a little bit about himself and his background in TNTP.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It's an honor and it's humbling to be here. First of all, with the best high school math teacher I've ever seen. I know, Kelly, you've gone on to other things in your career, but I always remember those videos of your classroom practice, which are emblazoned in my brain because they were so amazing. So thank you. And just to be surrounded by, virtually, unfortunately, but be surrounded by so many great educators and leaders from around the state. And I really feel like I would just want to start with thanks to all of you. We know because we have the great fortune at TNTP to be working with educators all around the country, but also all around the state of Florida, which is so important to us. These are incredibly important partnerships, as is the partnership with Impact Florida. And just we have seen the incredible commitment of the educators all across the state, while all of you are dealing with your own individual hardships, and the commitment and dedication to students and families has just been incredible. I know everybody is frustrated. Nobody is happy with the situation we're in. Hopefully it's going to be a lot better really soon, but you all are truly an inspiration. So it's just great to be able to speak to you here today a little bit. For those who don't know much about TNTP, we're a national education nonprofit founded 23 years ago by teachers. And not surprisingly, our mission, which is about ending the injustice of education inequality, is through making sure that every student in every school, every grade, subject, and town and county is getting great teaching from great teachers every day. So we look at the process of bringing equity and bring quality education to students who right now are not getting that consistently. through the prism of how do you support teachers to do their job as well as possibly they possibly can. Um, and we do that in a few different ways. We worry about the who, certainly, and that's how we got our start 23 years ago, doing alternative certification teacher preparation programs. We still do that, but we do all kinds of talent work because the who we surround our students with, of course, is critically important. So, of course, not just teachers, but Kelly, as you mentioned, leaders, critically important part of the equation. District staff, cabinet staff, superintendents, we work with all of them to try to make sure they are as supported and well trained as they can be. The what, simply what are we asking our students to do, which of course matters profoundly to their ability to reach their goals. So issues like high quality instructional materials, I know one of the 5 pillars that Impact Florida is concerned with, but also instructional strategy, things like the culture in school buildings, which, as you all know, are so important. And then third, the how. How are we relating as school systems and schools and institutions to our students, to our parents and families, and to our educators? And so we spend a lot of time really trying to help our partners to engage authentically and really effectively with all those really important stakeholders. And I hope we get a chance, Kelly, to talk a little bit about that, because that's one of the areas that's become so obvious to everybody how critical that is. And just a word about me. I took kind of a circuitous route, proud product of the New York City Public Schools, who then went on to a career in law in the private sector, but got back to my roots going to work about 20 years ago with the New York City Department of Education under then Chancellor Joel Klein, where I was privileged to lead our labor and talent efforts, and then came to TNTP, where I've, over the last 11 years or so, led our policy team, our partnership team that works with districts and educators around the country, and then finally taken the CEO spot about 6 years ago.
Well, thanks, Dan. That's a ton of really great information, and it makes me think about when I first learned about TNTP, and it was through the Fishman Prize, and that process was just so intense. And I learned so much about myself, and I think my students did too. And it became almost a public practice in my classroom. So even though I didn't want to share with everybody that I was applying for this thing, and I didn't want to get into all that, what it really became was bringing my classroom and my students into the teaching practices, into what I was doing, why we were filming, why was it important to film, why was it important to talk to other colleagues. And I think back to the day where we had an unannounced classroom visit as part of that application process, and how just interesting my students found it, and how they almost, kept me going throughout the process. And it makes me wonder, now in times where we're using video so much more, we have distance learning, we have hybrid models, where do you kind of see the future of that? And how is TNTP helping teachers through that process throughout the pandemic? And what kind of tools are you guys using internally?
Yeah, it's, look, in case I sound like I'm too confident in answering this question, we're scrambling like everybody else. We, by no stretch of the imagination, do we have all the answers. What was very clear from mid-March on, when schools began to shut down around the country, is we needed to provide really practical resources and make them as readily available to teachers, to leaders around the country as possible. And so we kind of shifted. We shifted some of our work. Some of our work was already happening virtually, as you know, and we operate virtually, so that shift wasn't hugely difficult for us. But making sure that we still had connection to the educators we work with was really important. And so our teams did a great job scrambling to figure out, for example, how we could provide coaching and training that we had been planning to do in person, how to do that not just on a Zoom call, but effectively in ways that would really connect. But then the other piece of the effort was really pulling together resources quickly, both from around our organization. I'm privileged to work with 320 or so really terrific, passionate people in education. And so we had to pool our own, resources and intellect and come up with really practical, accessible, how to grab and go resources that we put on our website. So for example, one of the things we were able to pull together, and hopefully we get a couple of minutes to touch on this, Kelly, is what we call our Learning Acceleration Guide. And that was in response to what we were hearing from teachers around the country, saying, gosh, now I am dealing with students who may have already had challenges, now have interrupted learning. And I've got more of my students who are behind or more behind. What are the right strategies? And so we put together a detailed, but we hope pretty easy to use resource around just that. If I am an Algebra 1 teacher and I'm planning for next year, I'm the summer planning for next year, knowing that my students will have missed, maybe a third of 8th grade in many cases. How do I plan for that? What do I do? And so that was a big emphasis for us in dealing with interrupted learning. The other thing that we did that turned out, I think, to be a good decision is we didn't want districts and schools to be worrying about, all right, we need help right now, but we don't know what our budget's going to look like. We don't know, our contracting process is messed up. Our contracting team is not even in the office right now. So we just offered pro bono counseling sessions. We just said, look, if you need help that you think we can provide as a district, as a charter network, whomever, as parochial schools, just call us up. Like we will get on the phone with you and brainstorm and get you tools around as we are learning. What are the strategies out there for connecting with families while who may not have access to technology and internet? How are you going to plan for next year? How are you going to think about reopening and talent? When you're going to have massive number of teachers who aren't going to be able to come back on campus right away. So that was really important, and our phone was kind of ringing off the hook, and I'm glad it was, because we were able to get really quick resources to the field pretty quickly. And we're still, of course, Kelly, in that process, we're still out there learning. We're still trying very quickly to take what we learn from the field and share it as widely and as accessibly as we can.
Well, it's so interesting because you're touching on so many different things that we've talked about already today. So you're talking about professional learning. We just did a great session with student achievement partners and talking about the need to make sure it's not just an add-on. That's essential. It's part of the routine. And throughout COVID, it just makes me think about how important it is for us to make time for either checking in to make sure that other teachers are okay, that you're doing all right, or just for professional learning, and make sure it's part of the routine. And making sure it's that essential piece that doesn't get left behind. We heard from so many teachers sharing that. I'm curious, do you see in the districts and states that you work with a bigger push with professional learning? And is it different? Because there's so many new tools now with virtual, platforms like Zoom. Is it different? Are we moving in the right direction? Are there more opportunities now for professional learning than there have been in the past?
Yes, and yes. I mean, I'm not. I don't even want to utter the phrase silver lining, because there's no silver lining. This is a terrible situation. None of us would hope for this, and we all hope that we're going to get to an effective treatment for COVID or the vaccine very, very quickly, and we're going to be able to get all kids and all educators back on campus. Having said that, we'd be crazy if we didn't look for things that might be positives going forward. And right, on professional learning, one thing is just, I can't give you data on this. This is just a feel, but it's, this pandemic has humbled all of us. We've got amazing master teachers, including you, Kelly, on this call. But I think I've heard you say it's like your first year teacher all over again. All of us are like that. Whether you're a coach, you're a principal, you're a superintendent, you're a content lead, we're all having to learn. That's not good. But what it's producing is much more openness to taking the time, as you're talking about, to sit down and really reflect and brainstorm together and plan together to figure out, all right, how do we deal with these situations we haven't dealt with before? How do we make sure our kids who are remote are engaged? How do we know whether they're engaged? How do we check for understanding? How do we know whether they've mastered the content? I'm used to being able to, be in close proximity and figure that out. And now my radar isn't working as well. So I do think that's positive. I do think you've got more openness, and part of it's just logistics. And this, I think, will be valuable, where the default was always in-person professional learning. That's what we like to do, is in person. But now, unable to do it in many, many cases, so you have to get better at delivering learning virtually. And educators are more used to getting it. And the upside is you don't have to drive to Orlando or, make a whole day, put aside a whole day for a conference. You can just, open your laptop in the morning and connect to all kinds of expertise and peers who you can puzzle through this stuff with. So that, I think, is here to stay. I do think there will be more opportunities for quality PD, not sit and get, not, stuff that's not relevant to teachers' practice, but there'll be a wide variety you can access very, very easily with people who are delivering PD who are way better at doing it virtually than they had been, 6-8 months ago.
I think that's so exciting because we think about like open resources in terms of instructional materials, and there is an opportunity here if there is a need for districts to come together in a way to have open resources for professional development. We're all recording everything. We're sharing it within our districts. Like, is there a way for our districts to collaborate together to get really good at different kinds of PD and then share it across the state? That kind of big picture effort is something that I would love to see, and I would be really excited to talk to districts and teachers and just hear what they think. How do we create something that appeals to all, but really puts the best out there? We don't want to sit and get. We've all been through way too many PDs that we weren't happy with when we left. So I think that's really exciting for me to see as the head of educator innovation, and also the opportunities that recorded PD gives for practice. And we might not think about it all the time, but breakout rooms are great. And it allows teachers, you can put two or three teachers into a breakout room, and they can actually practice together the skills that you're talking about during the professional learning. And in a much kind of like a much safer zone. You're not in front of 30 people. You're not off in a corner where other people can hear you. It's private. And I think that is, I would love to see that be part of the future of professional development. And I think that's really exciting.
Just one quick thing on that, Kelly, just building on your point. When we've done research, as you know, we do research across the country, which always involves surveys and focus groups with teachers, practicing teachers. The number one type of professional learning that we consistently hear from teachers they want is intervisitation, being able to visit peer classrooms. And it's also the number one thing that teachers say they don't get a chance to do, even within their own campus, much less in another campus. Well, now we've got the ability potentially to share videos from teachers who want to share that what's happening in either their virtual classroom or their physical classroom. And that would be, I think, a sea change. If any teacher around the country who is delivering a lesson on how to multiply fractions can dial up, not just a coach who says, all right, here's something from illustrative math on that subject, but here's an actual classroom from one of the teachers, like on this Zoom call, who we know is incredibly high quality. I think that would be hugely helpful.
Absolutely. And I think about, go back to the Fishman Prize process. There was so much videotaping involved, and getting to see, we had access to the video library and got to see other teachers teach and get reviews, and also just get great non-evaluative feedback, understand where we were doing things that we could improve on, but then where were we doing things that were really great as well. And that was a huge takeaway from that process, and getting to, part of the process is writing an essay, and getting to write that essay. It was so difficult to choose what one thing I wanted to write about. And so what did I do? I went back to my teaching videos, and that's what I watched over and over again. And that is definitely one of the best ways that I've learned about my own teaching practice. And I know so many other teachers do the same, and I'd love to see that be more commonplace. Absolutely. I'm curious about teacher leader perspectives. and kind of where that fits in the future. And if we're rethinking a lot of our district structures, if we're rethinking professional development and we're rethinking new teacher training, where does the teacher perspective fit in? In what ways do you see teacher voice coming through in the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, um, I think it's critically important. Like a lot of issues, this is a chance for a reset because generally, as a field, we do a terrible job. I don't have to tell you or anybody who's listening. We do a terrible job of lifting up the voice of educators or practicing teachers or even school leaders for that matter. So this is an opportunity to reset and get away from the paradigm. And look, as an old district guy, I was probably guilty of this. Initiatives get thought up at the cabinet level and rolled out at the central level, and maybe a little bit of training for teachers, and then teachers lift up, hey, here's the design flaw you guys didn't think about. Here's the implementation flaw you guys didn't think about. And typically districts, in all good faith, then refine it and then try to figure out how to make it better. Well, that's a pretty inefficient and frankly disrespectful way to do decision making, as opposed to constantly. I mean, I think there's a couple of different levels. One, we should, and this is something we try to do at TNTP with all of our district partners, we should be surveying, even in a big district, surveying all your teachers all the time. I mean, not, several times a year. That will give you information with them, some open-ended responses. So it's not just yay or nay on this particular issue, but what do you think we need to address as a school system? And then once you start to kind of invite those discussions, focus groups at the campus level, at the district level, leaders will emerge. And sometimes they will be the educators who are already in leadership positions. Sometimes they will be the great teacher. I mean, that was part of the Fishman Prize process. We wanted to lift up teachers who might not have been celebrated because they were doing incredible practice in their classrooms, but maybe not even their peers in the building knew about it. And so once you start to signal as a system, as a cabinet, as a superintendent, as a school board, we really want to hear from you, then you're going to have people step forward. And if you are inclusive about how you make the decisions, they are 100% of the time going to be better, wiser. You're going to have missteps still, but they're going to be better, wiser, more thoughtful decisions. The other thing I would say on this, Kelly, is that because it is a reset, one of the things I was really proud of with the Fishman Prize, we put you guys in front of like bigwigs, right? Remember, we put you guys in front of senators. I think the chairman of the Senate Education Committee went and met with you guys, and
Arnie Duncan, yes.
Arnie Duncan, oh yeah, Arnie was that was an easy one, but yeah, no, exactly, and it was sincere. Like the thing about those meetings, and you can talk about this. It wasn't just kind of a meet and greet and take a picture with a great teacher. It was like real questions. What do you think as a teacher about this particular policy, about compensation or resources or budgeting? So for those listening who think, my life is busy, I don't know that I want to spend a lot of time trying to put my ideas on policy out there, I would urge you to see if you can make some time, because trust me, the people who are making decisions at the local level and the state level really want to hear from you. They really do, and it'll make a difference. So I hope that we see much more involvement from teachers on those sorts of issues.
Absolutely. And I think, now more than ever, they're looking for that voice. They're looking to hear from lots of different perspectives, not just the teacher that lives next door to them. I think they really are genuinely interested in what teachers are experiencing and families. And that makes me, really think about how virtual distance learning has changed that dynamic of family involvement, and how exciting it is that schools can go to the families instead of families having to go to the schools, and how that can change so many different aspects of the classroom for the good. And some things that, are not going to work out, and we need to move on from those. But I think about parent-teacher conferences. And why do they have to be once or twice a year? Why couldn't they be all the time? Why couldn't it just be whenever a parent wants to Zoom with their teacher? I think there's a lot of opportunities here for families to have a larger involvement and feel respected and not worried about walking into a school or what is the teacher going to say to me or how does it look. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. And I'm curious what you think about family involvement as we move forward.
Yeah, that's one of the innovations, if you want to call it that, that I think is going to stick with us, and I think it should stick with us. And that is, look, it's never been as obvious as right now, the codependence between educators on the one hand and parents and caregivers on the other. And so both groups to the extent they didn't fully understand, now understand. Like, you got parents saying, my God, I've been trying to help my kid with, fifth grade math, and I now realize what a difficult job, or I got 3 kids and trying to wrangle them all to make sure they're staying current. And my gosh, teaching is a really tough job and a really essential job. And then you got teachers also appreciating, my gosh, I really now am reliant, as I never have been before, on parents and families and caregivers to help keep my students connected and up to date and engaged. And so that's a huge opportunity to continue that. Exactly. Why is it? And part of this is structural. Part of this is, these are inequities that are baked into the system we have. Why is it that we do parent-teacher conferences a couple of times a year in some high schools? I don't know if this was true, Kelly, in your high school, in my kid's high school, you get 3 minutes with the teacher. It's not the teacher's fault. This is the way that it was set up. Now it's happening organically. Why isn't there constant communication between parents and caregivers on one hand and teachers on the other? Now, you got to give teachers time to do that. You got to give them training to do that. You got to give them resources and tools, but everybody wins if that's what's happening. The other thing, just quickly, I would say is, I was talking about kind of participatory decision-making, getting teachers involved. This is an innovation that you see around the models, whether we should go to a hybrid model or all remote, or, now there are real choices and real decisions that the districts have to make in concert and collaboration with parents and families. That's also something that should continue. It is possible. Look, when I worked in a district, the traditional idea was, talk to parents, but parents can be trouble. So, keep them at arm's length. And of course, that's not true. Parents are enormous assets. And again, if you bring them in to sit at the table when you're making a decision, what's going to be produced is a better decision that parents are going to feel more ownership over and are going to help you sustain it. Particularly when you're talking about change. So that's one of the things that I really hope continues.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. And now we want to take some time to allow the audience to discuss. And so you're going to be placed into breakout rooms on the Huda app. They're under session overview, excuse me. If you click on see more, you'll see several different, there's 4 different discussion questions for your breakout rooms. And so Eric will be placing us into those breakout rooms in just a second. You'll have some time to discuss, talk about the day, see how everyone's doing, and then we'll give you a 1-minute warning and bring you back whole group. So thank you and enjoy your breakout room.